Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, my name is Ronan, I make vlogs and I make product and tech reviews, and in today's video I want to talk about iOS 16. So Apple recently held their Worldwide Developers Conference, and Apple spent a huge amount of time during their keynote presentation talking about the next version of iOS. So there are a huge amount of exciting new features coming to iOS 16 later in the year. I'm not going to go through all of them here. I'm going to list my top 5 features that I'm really excited about in the next generation of iOS. So the first thing that I'm super excited about, and it's probably the thing that Apple spent the most time talking about with iOS 16, is the new lock screen. Apple have completely revamped how the lock screen operates, and it's kind of, from what I can see, it's the area that has kind of the biggest and most obvious changes to the OS. So just the first thing to note on the lock screen is Apple have actually changed the font on the date and time, which you see just off the top of the screen here. And what's more, not only have they slightly changed how the font looks, they've actually made the font customizable. So for the first time ever in iOS, you can customize how the date and time appears on your lock screen. So I think that is really cool. Another exciting feature that Apple have added to the lock screen is they've actually enabled widgets for the lock screen. So we've had widgets on the home screen for a little while now, and I really like them, but we can now have some widgets on our lock screen, which is really exciting. I haven't played around with this too much in iOS 16. The only widgets I currently have are my calendar on the left hand side. I keep the weather and temperature just to the right of that, and then on the far right I have my activity, which is something that I'm very familiar with having because it's on my watch. Up until now, the activity app only appeared on the iPhone if you had it paired with an Apple Watch, but for the first time ever, also in iOS 16, Apple are actually including the activity app on the iPhone for everyone. Another big change that Apple have made to the lock screen is how notifications appear on the lock screen. So traditionally notifications appear at the top of your screen and they filter down as you get more notifications. Apple have completely changed this. Now notifications come in from the bottom, which to me is really convenient because when you're holding the phone, if a new notification comes in, it's much easier to tap it down here. It's also much more comfortable and it's a kind of a much more natural feeling, I think. The other thing that I really like with the notifications in the lock screen, like if you have a series of notifications within an app, they all stack on top of each other. That's not new, iOS 15 does that as well. But when you tap it in iOS 15, they just kind of drop down. Whereas now, they kind of, well, they still do that, but there's like when you swipe through them, they have like a carousel animation, which I think is just really nice. And it's just a really nice touch to have. Another new feature with the lock screen is you can actually have multiple lock screens. And for me, where I see a potential for this is the idea that like if you're using focus modes, you might have like a lock screen and a focus mode for work, a lock screen and a focus mode for like your home life, that kind of thing. So you can easily jump between the two so that like when you're in your work day, your phone can be configured for one setup, and then when you're kind of relaxing in the evening or whatever, you can actually switch your phone over to kind of a more personal setup for like kind of more casual use or more relaxing use. And Apple have actually added so much more to the lock screen than I've mentioned here, but these are the changes that I'm most excited about. The next thing that I'm super excited about in iOS 16 are some of the upgrades to the camera. So last year, Apple updated the camera and the Photos apps so that you could actually identify text on screen when you're holding the camera up or in a photo. But they've kind of taken that a step further this year with the camera. There's now an option to translate text directly from the camera app. And what that means is that if you're out and about and you see a sign and it has text that's in a language that you don't speak, you can hold your camera up to that, you can tap the text and an icon comes up which will enable you to translate that text using the Translate app. I think that's amazing that that's all built into the camera app in the phone. And where I really see like potential for this and where I see myself using this is if you're in a country where you don't speak the language, it just means that like reading signs or particularly menus in restaurants will just be so much easier to navigate than they were previously, and that's all just built into the phone. And it's just kind of a way that Apple's really kind of making your life just that little bit easier and kind of just making the technology work for you in a way that's much more seamless. And that's something that really, really excites me. Another thing that is very similar to this that Apple have built into the camera is the ability to convert currencies. So again, if you hold your camera over something and it detects a currency, so if it sees like a euro symbol or a dollar symbol, again, you can highlight the currency in the image and you get another little tab which pops up, and if you hit that, it actually brings up the currency converter app. So for example, again, if you're abroad and you want to know how much something costs in the currency that you use, you can do that really easily straight from the camera app on your phone. The next change that Apple have made to iOS 16 that I'm really loving so far is they've actually enabled haptic feedback in the keyboard, which means that if you're writing a text message, anytime you tap the keyboard, you get feedback in the phone, like a physical feedback from the keyboard in the phone, and it is immediate when you touch it. There's no lag. It works really nicely, and I'm just really enjoying using that. And it's nice to kind of feel that feedback from the screen so that you know that if you're not maybe fully looking at the keyboard and what you're typing, you know that the keyboard is responding and that you are actually getting a response from the phone when you're typing. The fourth thing that I'm really, really excited for in iOS 16, and I've been using this a little bit, is the ability to cut out objects from photos. So this works whether you've taken the photo using iOS 16 or it works with old photos. And the way Apple have developed this is it's designed primarily to cut out people and animals, but it works with so many objects, and it works really well with objects that aren't people or animals. But if you hold down on the image, you can literally just drag the object from the image and paste it into a new image or paste it into a note. It creates a PNG of that image. There are so many apps out there already, and people spend so much time using things like Photoshop and that to remove the background from an image just so they can have the specific thing that's in the image isolated as a PNG. And now with iOS 16, you can do that built into the Photos app in the phone just by tapping on the image. I think it'll be a fun feature for people to use, and for people like me who create content, I think it's just gonna make our lives so much easier. And then the last thing that I'm actually really excited about on iOS 16 is something that's really, really simple and really basic, but it's the spotlight search. So traditionally in iOS, you had to kind of drag down from the middle of the screen and you get your spotlight search. Whereas now, spotlight search is on your home screen all the time. So before in iOS, you would have little dots at the bottom of your home screen to see how many pages you had, and when you swipe, that dot is highlighted so you know if you're on the first page, second page. That still exists, but it doesn't sit on the home screen all the time. So those dots only appear when you're actually swiping from page to page, and after that, that little section of the home screen actually reverts to your search bar. So spotlight search is actually there all the time. You can tap it and it comes up, and it means you can search for anything on your phone or on the web straight from spotlight search. I don't use spotlight search that much on my phone just because it's kind of hidden and I don't necessarily think of it. Whereas when I'm using my Mac, I use spotlight search all the time. So I think since I've had iOS 16 running on this, and since I've just been toying with it and playing around with it, I do find myself actually using the spotlight search function much more just because it's there, and I really, really like that, and I can't wait to have that when iOS 16 launches later this year. Okay, so those are my top 5 features that I'm really excited for with iOS 16. If there's something that you're really excited for about iOS 16 that I haven't mentioned here, let me know in the comments below what it is. I'd love to hear what your thoughts about the upcoming iOS is, and let me know if you are as excited as I am about iOS 16. So I'm going to leave this video here. I hope you've liked it. If you do, please give it a big thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel, and I will catch you guys in my next video.